What is the most important chord progression in Western music? Welcome to the Chord by Chord series, where we explore harmonic progressions one chord at a time, following the formulas composers have already figured out. I'll demonstrate each formula in C major and C minor, and from there you can transpose them to any key. Let's start with the most fundamental chord progression in Western music, 1-5-1 in root position. It's the foundation of classical harmony, pop music, jazz, and it's everywhere. Let's break it down in C major. The 1 chord contains scale degrees 1, 3, and 5, while the 5 chord contains scale degrees 5, 7, and 2. That makes C major 1 and G major 5. With both chords in root position, the bass plays scale degrees 1, 5, 1, the notes C, G, C. The bass can either jump up a fifth to the higher G or jump down a fourth to the lower G. Both are equally valid. Let's choose down a fourth since it's a smaller leap. The other 3 voices each start on a different chord member and then move as little as possible to reach the next chord. There's only one way to do this smoothly. One voice stays on scale degree 5 the whole time, one moves 1, 7, 1, and the remaining one moves 3, 2, 3. This voicing gives each chord 2 roots, 1/3, and 1/5, which is the standard way to voice a 3-note chord in 4 voices. Doubling the root reinforces the chord's identity. While there are other ways to voice it, this one ensures that the upper voices move as smoothly as possible, 2 by step and 1 staying on the same note. In root position, the bass always follows the same scale degrees, but the upper 3 voices can be arranged differently. Typically, we give the soprano the most interesting line since the highest voice is usually perceived as the melody. 3-2-3 is the most interesting choice because the third of the chord determines whether a chord is major or minor, and this line has the third in both of the C major chords. One 7-1 also works well since it provides the third of the G major chord. 5-5-5 is the most static option and the least interesting because it doesn't move and it never includes a third. But this can be useful when you want to shift the focus to the inner voices. Since there are multiple ways to voice this progression, we can name them for clarity. Let's call this one the lower neighbor, since 2 of the voices move down a step to a lower neighbor and then step right back up. Now let's zoom in for a minute on the 1-7-1 line. Scale degree 7 is called the leading tone. It's a tendency tone in Western music, meaning that it naturally wants to resolve back to 1. This movement is essential to smooth voice leading, and in the lower neighbor voicing, it resolves automatically. Now let's do the same thing in C minor. The only difference in this progression is that the tonic chord changes from C major to C minor by changing the E natural to an E flat. Since we raise the leading tone in minor keys in order to maintain that strong half-step pull back to 1, the dominant triad is still G major. The voicings are identical, but the mood shifts dramatically because of the minor tonic. Now let's look at some real music. Since 1-5-1 strongly defines the key and sounds final, composers usually use it to end pieces. The final chords of the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony are just lower neighbor 1-5-1 progressions in C minor repeated over and over in the orchestra across multiple octaves. I've color-coded the voicings for you. See if you can hear them as you follow along. Here's another Beethoven example for you, this time the very end of his First Symphony. Can you see and hear the patterns between the 1 and 5 chords? That's the simplest version of the 1-5-1 progression, the backbone of tonal music. Even with just 3 chords, we've built a complete harmonic statement with the smoothest possible voice leading. Now I want to hear from you. Do you know any songs that use this exact voicing in real music? Drop them in the comments so we can build a library of real-world examples together. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other videos for more harmonic breakdowns. I'm Dr. Fromm. See you next time on One Chord at a Time.